Okay, GAWD. In this next step, I'm going to do the detail sculpting on my Squirtle, which we're later going to bake into a normal map to give the illusion of a higher amount of detail on our lower poly model. So this is some high-end stuff that's very popular in the industry right now for making assets for game engines like Unity or Unreal. So first thing we're going to have to do is sculpt some detail in. So let's set that up. So I'm going to go to my default layout, and I'm going to make a copy of this workspace or scene, and I'm going to call that sculpting. Okay, and that's just because I'm going to wreck this layout a little bit right now. So I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to drag that UV down, and I'm going to keep one UV editing window open. And then in this main view here, I think that looks pretty good, but I think I'm going to want to add material capture. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to press N, bring this menu up. This is in edit mode. I think it can be displayed in either. I'm going to select matte cap. I'm going to select this kind of shiny red color. Actually, maybe there's a more appropriate blue. That looks kind of cool. All right. So what that does is it just gives me a little bit more of a nicer surface to look at when I'm doing my sculpting. And I'm going to turn on ambient inclusion too. That'll help me see that detail as I sculpt a little bit better. You see all these little speckly things. That's because it's sampling using, I think, some kind of ray casting probably. It's very cool. All right, so there's two main types of sculpting that you do, and that's like the multi-resolution and then the dynamic topology. What we're going to use is multi-resolution. This is a standard sculpting technique you would use for creating game assets. Okay, so I'm going to go here to add modifier. It's my wrench button. I'm going to put on a multi-resolution modifier. And what multi-res does, and it's really, really cool, is it can hold vertex information for different levels of subdivision. So right now I'm in 0, and that means there's no subdivision happening. And I have my original UV layout, right? But if I go here and I hit subdivide, now and uncheck or bring this to 0, it looks the same in this viewport, but if I switch to sculpt mode, press Z, you'll see now I have more subdivisions. And if I up this by hitting subdivide again, now I get more subdivisions. And if I come out of sculpt mode to the regular object mode, you'll see I go back to that lower poly. So what this does is it allows you to have separate lists of vertex information, which is really super handy later when we go to bake the normal map. So it's really, really cool. I just love it. Let's keep this on solid so we get our matte cap. Okay, so to switch between sculpting mode and regular mode, you just you use this drop down here and select sculpt mode. All right, so I'm in here and I'm just looking at it, and I've applied a pretty high, level of subdivision. I'm going to need even more, so I'm going to hit subdivide again, and it's looking like the edge of my mouth is getting kind of sharp. And I could actually adjust my geometry a bit to fix that, so I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to just hit tab to go into edit mode, and I'm just going to grab these verts on the front of the mouth. Of course, this is optional. If you want to do this, then you go ahead. If you want to just not, then that's cool too. I'm just going to drag these back a little bit, and then press tab, and it brings me back to sculpt mode. So that looks a little better. I kind of like that. Okay. The edge of the mouth is doing. Okay, so I'm going to need to fix the corner of the mouth. Okay, and these are things you only see once you start subdividing it. So I'm just going to bring that in now. I'm going to bring this back a little bit. Okay, and then let's tab back and look at it. Yeah, it looks a little better. Okay, so that was just a small adjustment to the mesh, but then I'm back into sculpting. Okay, so if you've never used sculpting in Blender before, just a real quick idea here. So if you press Z, you get your wireframe, and you can kind of see what these tools do. So if I just click on this mesh, you'll see it's starting to affect the geometry so it bumps out. What it's doing is it's adding to the the vertex data. It's saying, hey, these verts add to the numbers for their positions and bump them towards the camera, okay? Which is, or according to their normal, actually. That's the right term. So basically, you're telling it to stick out more. And obviously, I'm just making a mess right now. Okay, but that's how sculpting works. Now, if you want to make something go in, you just hold down Control, and then it allows you to sculpt in. Okay. If you want to bump out, you don't hold down Control. Okay. So what we're going to do is just draw in the detail for the shell and for the eyes and for the nose and the tail, and we're just going to make this look more like Squirtle. So in your UV image editor, you should have a few images available. These are all from, these are mostly just from Google. I just found some pictures. So if you look at the front of the shell, you got this pattern where it goes from armpit to armpit, then there's a cross in the middle, and then it goes to the legs. So we're just going to try to create that. So press 1 on my keyboard to go front view, and I might as well go orthogonal. And I'm just going to make my brush a little smaller, uncheck pressure sensitive, and keep it at half strength. And then let's just draw, holding Control. I'm just drawing a line from there to there. And you want to just be careful because these are going to affect your whole thing. Okay. Then I'm going to go down the middle. By the way, I have a mirror modifier applied by default. Okay. So you might find that things are a little bit stronger in the middle, and that's because you're essentially going over it with 2 passes. Okay. I'm going to now go from here to here. Okay, that looks good. And then I'm going to do a cross from here to about here. And then I'm going to go from here to the arm again. I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, now I'm going to get the side detail. If you go here, you'll see there's a line that delineates the back shell and the top shell. So I'm just going to just do that just to make it clear that that is the back shell and that's the front of the shell. Okay, and then I'm going to go around these legs and just add some detail here, saying this is the Squirtle's legs. Okay, and then going around where the tail pops out, the same thing, saying, oh, we're going to transition now. And all I'm doing is holding Shift and drawing. And if you want to adjust the size of your brush, you can hold F or press F and then change it. That looks really good. Okay, now I'm going to go around the back of the shell, and I'm just going to get this like this up. And you're just creating that illusion of this being a real, like, sculpted model. Because right now, this is super low poly that we're working with. I'm sorry, I got people hanging on the door. It's distracting me. Okay. Now I'm going to go here. I have a classroom, and people hanging out the door is not something I like to see, so I just kind of got distracted. Okay, that's looking really good. All right, now I'm going to do the detail on the back of the shell. So I got another image for back view. You can see it's got a hexagon shape, and so I'm just going to start at the top and start there. Go ahead, thank you. You can go. Students waiting to be dismissed to lunch. Thank you. Now, I'm trying to get this area here. It's a little bit tricky. Maybe if I'm just gonna do my best. That looks really bad. So you can hide things actually. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit tab, going back into edit mode. I'm just gonna hide this tail temporarily. So I'm gonna press C to select with the circle select. I'm just gonna select those, hit hide, and when that didn't really work. Okay, well let's try masking instead. Let's do a hide mask. I think this is how masking works. So if I just do a lasso mask, and if I just select that, and if I say hide masked, there we go. All right. Try something new, learn something new. And I don't need to go all the way down on here. I'll just go about to here. And then I'm going to do the hexagon shape. It's looking a little fuzzy, and that's relating to how little geometry we really have going on here. I'm pretty sure the back of the shell has even less, because I had some pretty big shapes here. But this is all for a normal map, so this is actually going to be fine if I just leave that as it is. Oop, went a little too far. Trying to have that white accent on the edge of the shell, so I'm not going to go all the way up to the edge there, at least on the sides. Now if you go too far and you need to fix it, you can hold shift and you can smooth out anything that you do. And also here, maybe if I just hold shift, get a little bit of smoothing there, but that looks pretty good. Looks like I'm missing one more line here, so I go. Okay. Now to just sell that delineation there a little better, I'm just going to now draw a channel around where that white section is going to go, because that'll just help me when I go to paint it, and I'm just going to smooth that out. There we go. And then one more here. Okay, now that I'm done with that, I'm going to move on to the face. And all I have for the face is just eyebrows and nose. So the nose is just kind of a hold control down and go like that. That makes it look like a nose. And then we're going to go into the eyes, and I'm just going to not hold control, I'm just going to bump it out actually. So I'm just going to draw like that. Okay. So now I'm just going to show all, and I'm going to clear my mask. And now the last thing I think I need to do is just the tail, the squirrel thing. So it just is a spiral. So I'm just going to do a spiral here. I'm just going to start here, holding down control, and I'm just bringing it in and around. And then just do a second pass over it, and then a third pass over it. I'm just looking for the amount of depth I want. And if it looks good, I will stop. That looks really good. Okay. Another thing that I could do is just work on the shape of the eyes a little bit, but I'm not. I'm just going to leave it, since we're just basically we're cheating on the eyes with this, which is just a flat surface. We're going to paint on it. So that looks really good, actually. I'm very happy with it. Which might be a bad sign. I'm not really sure yet. But you can just spend as much time fixing that as much as you want. But I am going to call my detail sculpt done. So we're going to move on to the next step, which is baking. So I'm going to pause this video and we're going to do that next step. Thank you.